Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Our guest today is Dr. Oleg Konovalov, management consultant with extensive experience in international business. Well, Oleg, I have to welcome you to Savvy Broadcasting, a Life Unscripted. We're so grateful to have you here. This is your second time back. I'm grateful to have you here. The first time we talked about the workplace, how no matter where you are in the world, there's different cultures and how to deal with specific cultures and employees differently based on that group of people, because it's not the same based in one place as opposed to another place, even within the United States. But today we're going to talk about something very interesting, and that is how corporate culture and activism is kind of playing a dual role today. We've heard of places like we talked before the interview, how Google has been unhappy with some of their employees' take on politics, and how they're kind of saying, well, that doesn't match our culture, our viewpoint, our beliefs, and how the two have become intertwined. You've also written a new book. I want you to share that at the end as well. Corporate Superpower were the first book we touched on, but thank you for coming back, Oleg.
I'm honored, actually. It was fantastic conversation last time, and I love it. And thank you very much. Thank you, Christina.
My God. Like I said, the first time you came on board here, you were probably one of our first guests that we ever had on from Russia. You were calling in from Moscow, and now you work primarily in Moscow and in UK, helping corporations all over the world, including the United States. But share with me, why is there such a difference today in the way companies are operating? There's this kind of mix of politics and activism melded in with the corporate culture. How did that happen?
I would be looking at core things. First thing, and I'm strongly standing at this point, we became exceptionally good at standing for the old mistakes. We're repeating them the same and again and again and again, and it seems to me we're getting some kind of a pleasure out of it.
And what mistakes are those in particular?
Yeah, we are still not valuing people, for instance. We're still using old approaches because we are thinking that financial reports are more important than people. And we could see leaders who never talks with customers or even own employees. So is it a new form of digital reality? Then it's quite scary.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. You mentioned that, okay, I love our last conversation about how different corporate culture in different countries, how it can be handled. But I will tell you something different. Maybe it sounds not very deep in diplomatic way.
Yeah.
But think for a moment. If we'll take a few sheets of paper and I will write down the names of the company with really strong culture across the globe. How many pieces of paper do you need to fill up those pages? 3, 4?
Maybe.
And we're all mentioning them. The reality is today that we are focusing on talking about corporate culture, which is easier than go to talk with own people.
Yes.
You know, because to connect hearts and minds takes a time and effort. Whether talking people we are nice is very different. We gradually are realizing that talking about culture, it's not a matter of only a company itself. It's a matter of environment or ecosystem around it. You must involve your shareholders. You must involve your stakeholders. If we're talking about large companies who rocketed up financially over the last years because of a strong corporate culture, their shareholders became spoiled by a good result, and now they're saying, no, we don't need to invest in people. We need to invest into the result and get it. But we can't get the same result if we're not investing in people.
It's kind of, a conundrum. They're thinking, just focus on the bottom line. I see what you're talking about. We are going to the old school, push, get the bottom line at all costs, without realizing that the cost to get that bottom line is the people. It stops with the people.
Simple, right? We are moving because, let's face it, now when the business is a bit different ball game completely. And the same case, we are moving as argue from leadership as a function to leaderology as a system of caring and growing people for result. So we're changing things very dramatically. And so we're realizing that we have difficulty in, I wouldn't say implementing, but really cultivating and creating culture. We have difficulty with, we have difficulty with understanding customers.
Now, can I ask you, Oleg, is
Yeah.
that because we don't understand the word culture? Because I hear it thrown about in the corporate world. Oh, we're all worried we want the proper culture. And often when I go into a business and they ask me to see, okay, what are your problems? I notice there's a lot of varying people who do not meld together, and the culture is not contact. It's kind of all over the place, but they think they have a culture that is congruent.
It is absolutely true. Because therefore, what I learned over a period of consulting and speaking, even if it might sound annoying, but I'm starting, guys, let's define what culture is. And then we'll take it from there. It's energy of people, and it's how people connected, because talking culture, it doesn't mean that you're making a difference. Culture is care. Culture is love for people. It's, you could talk in a different ways, but it is everything what stands behind it is a verb of action. You do something for people, you care for people, you're growing them. It's a verb of action. It's not a noun. It's very different. And people are not much prepared to realize this. Therefore, we're still having those difficulties. Otherwise, imagine all the companies, or most of the companies these days talking about a strong culture, but why they don't have it?
And it's kind of, they have an idea of what they'd like to see, but all the pieces don't always meld together. Now, let's talk about activism and politics. How is that playing a role in corporations and coming into the corporate life? How is that happening, and what is that looking at? How is it changing the dynamic of corporations?
A solid body, one solid body, don't have discrepancies. The parts of it are never argue, right? Your left hand wouldn't argue with your right hand. No, they all work together, and in a way you need it. But if the company is or corporation, particularly large corporations, they're very fragmented, and whatever the way they declare we are strong together, it's not always true, because when companies fragmented into small pieces, they become not just into competition, they're fighting each other, because they're fighting for resources, for a better place under the sun, which is not very positive. And therefore they're even looking, as we discussed, what culture is. In our view, culture is how good we are living at these workplaces. Or no, how so more or less everyone is bringing own definition because they are fragmented. It is a reason for political games. It is a reason for exercising power. But what I always argue, whoever controls the culture controls the organization. It's like, if I control my soul, I control my body. The same in organization. That means leaders are not doing their job. They are allowing these political games instead of putting people together.
Yes. And realizing, leave that off the table, whatever your, personal beliefs might be on any given thing, that's outside the workplace. Right here, we're here to do a mission, and whatever that company mission is, whether it's making cars and making the best darn cars out there for people, that's your mission here. This is what we're here to do together.
In a simple or very normal human example, you could imagine a big family where people don't talk to each other. They're like relatives, but they're not family.
Yes.
They're fragmented because they're still, poking at each other and saying, "Oh, no, 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 it wasn't good last Christmas." You know, it would be different.
Yeah. Now, what is your take for companies to get a hold on what is their culture, the present culture, and to make it a better culture? Like, let's say, to take an evaluation of where you are culturally in your business. Is it standing well, good for your business, or that you can make some changes that are beneficial? How could they get a stronghold on that and realize where changes should be made if it needs to be made?
What I could see, and I believe it's very strong practical solution which could be implemented immediately. We're talking about creation of strong culture through enhancing a role of people in an organization, but not just enhancing, but overlapping a role of people. Because if I don't understand what my colleagues do, what my customers needed, what is my role for organization, I can't do much. I'm still fit into my job description, but I'm not spreading or hugging others, call it so. I'm not making them stronger, and they're not making me stronger. So the simplest thing is to do is to put people together, allow them, help them to understand how they are interrelated. So ask 5 simple questions, for instance. What is my role for organization? What is my role for customers? Even if I'm not in direct contact with them. I'm just like, for instance, in HR. What is my role for my subordinates or apprentices? What is my role for senior managers? You know, ask these simple questions. And what is my role for my colleagues, even from, I don't know, remote department or remote branch somewhere in another country, because we are still interrelated. So more or less, you're opening eyes into one solid body and how we interact together. It doesn't demand a lot of effort, but this understanding makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And what I'm getting, Oleg, is that really it has to start from the top, because I think when our leaders, the people running the organization, the VPs and such, start to ask these questions themselves and be open to hearing both how they see the company and what their employees are saying, they're like, okay, we're on 2 different wavelengths here. How do we get back on the same page? It gets everyone in the dialogue that is beneficial and moving in the right direction, the same direction.
It was my recent experience working with one of these IT companies, which supposed to work together as one strong body, as we discussed, because they're producing one software. And 16 top executives sitting together and ask them simple questions. Guys, do you know achievements of each other over the last year? And the guys just went blank. They don't know about each other. They don't talk much about each other. They hardly understand. Instead of blaming, oh, we are not guilty, it's another department guilty, in some kind of faults. So they're not standing together. They're not realizing the role of each other.
I just caught something, Oleg. You said something. They were blaming each other. Is corporate responsibility from every single sect and person important? Because I'm seeing that might be a big problem. If everyone's just pointing fingers at other people and they're not communicating, it's kind of this blame game.
It is. But then we know that it is no accountability. There is no teamwork as overall, right? Whatever they're saying, no, we're a strong team. Guys, I don't need propaganda. I just need fact. That's as simple. And the fact is, if you hate each other, if you blame each other, it's not a team. You wouldn't move far. And how you help each other in a simple sense, to become more professional, because people are not learning in this team from each other. They're busy with political things.
Yes, it is. And this is really an awesome topic we can go much more deeply in, but I want them to find out how to find out more about you and get your book. How can they do that?
Very recently I came with a new book. It's called Leaderology.
Yeah, put it like this. I want everyone to see Aha, leaderology. What does that mean? It's an interesting term I've not heard before.
As I mentioned, we are moving from leadership as a function to leadership as a system of caring and growing people. Then you need leaders' serendipity, knowledge, experience, everything in terms of how to handle situations. Challenges become tougher and tougher every day. We can't live in an old paradigm. And another thing is, when we've been thinking before about leadership as a function only, but it is an art, it is a science which must be applied daily. Therefore, it must be a strong understanding what organization is, what culture is, what employees are, and what about customers, and put all those things together under good, strong leadership. Not just taking leadership as a separate function, a standalone function. Not look at the organization as something, standalone, because organization without people, it's just legal entity. It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah. And one thing I get from often leadership, or the idea of leadership, is power over others. And then when people come into a corporation or a business with this idea of I'm the leader over these people, it kind of leads it to be kind of a dictatorship. And that's not it's not beneficial when you're not getting an understanding of the people who work for you. How can they help you? How can they be most beneficial? What are their gifts, their talents, all of that, allowing you to be a true leader, to bring out the best in everyone.
Yeah, because leaders grow together with people, not at their expense.
Yes. Awesome. I can't wait to read it. Leaderology. And where do they get the copy? And where's your website? Share everyone your website.
My website, olegkonovalov.com. And it's funny enough, it's in English. And Leaderology is available on Amazon and Book a Million, like quite a few places. And it's already gone into one of the 20 must read of 2019 by Forbes. So it's quite nice.
Yes. And it's about to kick butt in 2020. As long as everyone else listening to this podcast, I'm hoping it'll broaden people's idea of leadership, culture, and to build together. So I thank you so much, Oleg, for coming today to Savvy Broadcasting again. Thank you so much.
Christina, thank you very much. My honor. Thank you.
If you like this episode, please share. To hear more Savvy episodes and Savvy Biz tips, go to lifeunscriptedradio.com. To become a guest or participate in paid sponsorship, email us at Christina@lifeunscriptedradio.com.